Familiar picture from Bihar? Some of these men, women, and children have decided to change this picture, and we are working with them. And they strongly believe that the zillions that we spend on development need to reduce their disaster risk. Today, we'll look at their journey, the journey of unlearning and learning, and finally setting a cycle of learning and action through what we call community-based disaster risk reduction, and in short, CBDRR. Where do I point this? Oops. Sorry for that. Yeah. But how did they come here? Where did they start? I'll take you through the 2008 Kosi, when Kosi breached its embankments, and we had a huge disaster there all over North Bihar. Year after year, they undergo these cyclic disasters like floods. Precious development gains which are made in the previous year are lost in no time. And then definitely there's an untold human tragedy. There's displacement and long-term displacement. Long-term displacement due to disasters is a reality for many in the country. Children drop out of the schools. Girls are married off at young age, and families migrate to unknown cities looking for work because they have lost their livelihoods back home. Here's Rekha for you. Just born. She spent 6 months of her first 6 months of her life under a tarpaulin sheet in 2008, and she still probably lives in a half-constructed hut. This loss of protective environment due to disasters is the core of the problem. And when they get displaced, all the basic services like food, water, sanitation, health, etc., all the protective environment comes down. For children who go to school, school is a protective environment. Once they are in school, they are protected. Till they are in the school, they are protected. If they can't access the school, they are open to being trafficked, being abused, and children rarely suffer from a single vulnerability. There are multiple vulnerabilities which come with children. If you are a girl, a Dalit girl, then your vulnerabilities are many more times higher than the others. Now, if these people who are displaced, they can't get into this school, they go to some other school, which is not flooded. So children anyway can't access their schools. Schools are the critical infrastructure in some of the most remotest villages. So probably schools are the best place to start our work on disaster risk reduction. And these people who are living on the edge, they have walked miles to reach here. What do they go through? Some of them for sure will not go back to their homes. Many get trafficked. Some end up here in temporary settlements, which are overcrowded. And here the secondary disasters take over, the acute diarrheal diseases or other epidemics. Or they self-settle somewhere, wherever they can. They find a tarpaulin sheet and they wait. Wait for what? Humanitarian assistance. That someone will come and provide them. Provide them what? And in the end, after spending 2, 3, 4, 6 months, and many times years, the return happens. And the recovery begins. But even before the recovery from the previous disaster starts, the next one arrives, the next crisis arrives. And that's how the poverty and the deprivation gets perpetuated in these communities. But when the disaster happens, I'm a humanitarian worker. Our role comes into play. We have to provide life-saving assistance. We would get into water, sanitation, immunization, building transitional learning spaces for students. We would get into family tracing and reunification programs. We would, because a lot of families do get separated during disasters. Reproductive and child health, which you see here. There is a temporary maternity ward right in the camp, because women and children can't wait. I guess there are some doctors here who understand women and children can't wait, even for a few minutes. So this kind of life-saving work which we do, we spend a lot of money on this. And incredible effort goes on from the humanitarians. And particularly when the floodwaters go down, we can't even use the boat. And then we have to walk through all this. But in the end, all this incredible effort is no more than a bandage. But bandage is important as well. At the time of emergency, life-saving. But look at this picture. This is even more incredible. This family has walked for miles. They are here in some temporary camp, unknown land, and it's pouring. They don't have shelter. What do you see here? In 2009, we really questioned ourselves. We were spending $8.5 million that year, 2008, 2009, on responding to the Kosi disaster. $8.5 million. And in the end, we were only doing a bandage. Seeing people through those 5-6 months and return, and that's it. We were questioning, what is her capacity? I think this woman has incredible capacity. Do you agree with me? And this was what fed into our strategy since 2009. We said our capacity and their capacity has to be used for resilience building. And we worked out a strategy which is simple. We do one thing, only one thing, and that is capacity building. Build the capacity. 3 things: knowledge, skill, attitudes. And skill for what? Skill to do planning. Plan disaster risk reduction work in your villages on your own. We will be your facilitators. And then mobilize resources. We will not provide resources. You have to mobilize your own resources. And we decided to work in 2 domains, with men and women in the community and with children in the schools. Men and women started preparing their plans in their villages, children in their schools. Reactive approach to disaster management went on to proactive disaster risk reduction work. But we soon ended up with this A. attitude. Our attitudes are source of all the problems. And we ran into this mindset of victimhood. When we went back to the villages, people said, what have you brought? What are you going to give us? They are all having that dependency syndrome. We've been providing them disaster relief, flood relief, year after year. Now what are you? We said we're not going to give you anything this year. What are we going to do? We're going to learn. Okay, learn what? And then that entire dialogue, conversation started. It was difficult. I'm going to use this drama triangle to explain you a little bit about this mindset. All of you see the soap operas, and many of you, I won't say all of us, but many see soap operas in the evening, and you find these three people there. The victim, the rescuer, and the villain. In our situation, it was flood, it was the disasters, it was the hazards which were seen as the prosecutor. And people had that victim mindset. And they were resigned to their fate. They thought this is God's will. And we as rescuers were always providing them year after year all the assistance which they wanted. And we had to take them, reverse this entire thing. And I'm going to use another TED. No, this is not this TED. This is the empowerment dynamics. David Emerald's theory from transactional analysis. And the entire transformation was about becoming creators, from victim to creators, creators of opportunity, creators of their own development plans which are informed by this challenge. Floods, deprivation still remains as a challenge, but not as something which you get resigned to, but challenge response. And that started. And our role from provider of humanitarian assistance became capacity builders. We became their coach in this journey. And we took this road. It took us about 9 months to cross the first 2 milestones, where we started mobilizing and organizing the communities. Village disaster management committees were organized, and they started working on a pathway, which is risk assessment, disaster risk reduction planning, and then also addressing some of the underlying risks like malnutrition and inequities that exist there in the societies. And all along, it was a participatory process. People-led planning for their own well-being, and they developed a unique model in which the plans which are developed are fed into the village plan, and that's how the resources start flowing from the panchayats. And that led to a very unique process of Gram Sabhas, where all the plans which were done by people were integrated into the village plans. And as the years passed by, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, people started working on underlying risks, not only the flood, but if there is malnutrition happening in the village, mothers group decided to work on malnutrition and eradicate malnutrition. India has been struck with malnutrition at 50%, almost 50% of our children are malnourished. And here, if you go to these villages, and you would see that they have taken a very strong action on that. Participatory planning was the biggest challenge for us in terms of capacity building. Lots of capacity building. Finally, the plans look like this. Physically, they look like this. They're handwritten, clear responsibilities, who will do what will it cost, what will be the cost sharing, etc. And ultimately, this belongs to these two groups, the Village Disaster Management Committee and the School Disaster Management Committee. These two institutions at the village level have their own plans. And what do they do with that? I'll give you one or two glimpses. This is one kind of program which we run. Raise everything. Everything should be above the high flood level. What is high flood level? People from their memory know it. You don't need a civil engineer to tell them this is the high flood level. People from their memory know that this, in our village, this is the high flood level. So you've got to raise everything. Right from homes. Homes have been raised using Narega money. Granaries are raised. Hand pumps are raised. Sometimes they are raised using whatever local materials which are there. And we have these catalysts who really work on it day in and day out. Most of these people have suffered on their own during these previous disasters. And then this exceptional thing happens when they start succeeding. Nothing succeeds like success. And these people start rising to the occasion. There's a disaster in the neighboring village. They mobilize their own resources and they get there. They review their plans time to time, but this remains constant. Every year, new plan is done. New learning cycle goes on. And that similar process happens in the school. School is a much more structured process where children learn in a different way, in an 8-step process. They go through the similar process of planning, then they implement their plans, they present their plans to the duty bearers, and they learn a lot of life skills. We have a weekly knowledge building program with them. It's all very structured, and ultimately what we are seeing is that we have lots of different plans coming. Lots of different plans coming from different villages according to their risk profile, according to their aspirations, according to their feasibility, what they can achieve. But what's common between all these plans is that they're using government flagship programs to find the resources. Government provides majority of the resources, accounts, and accountability. We spent, as I said earlier, about $8.5 million on COVID flood response. Now we spend $500 per year on each village, only $500. And what have people mobilized out of this? Let's look at one of the school plan. In this village in Supaul district, people have constructed the boundary wall of the school. They have 7 extra rooms which are disaster resistant. They have toilets, playground which is above the high flood level. It's all raised. And they have water. So their school has become safe place in the village. And they've used $27,500 from the government funds for doing all this. A bigger one. In this village, they have mobilized incredible amount of resources from the government. They built 18 villages along the road, came together to build this big all-weather road which could provide them access to and from the village. And they have mobilized roughly around $162,000 to make their village safe. Finally, I would like to tell you that we strongly believe that people and government can come together in their best interest. No government in the world would say that they don't have an interest in protecting their people against disasters. And here people are also prepared to receive that assistance. And people have their credible plans, and plans have the capable people to follow them up, to follow them through. And that's where in 2009 we started. That's Bihar's CBDRR program for you. Mobilized and organized communities build that trust which government can respond to, and we've seen that. And our role as facilitators is a critical success factor in this, but it has gone down. We have worked towards our redundancy. People have taken over. The mobilized VDMCs are taking it forward and dancing with it. Thank you.